in my own country, where I have the freedom to speak and say the things I want, I'm going to be funny and I'm going to be who I am. And if you're not buying that, you don't have the right to tell me on my own show.
Hey, so I'm going to show you a few clips, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tim Dillon being fired from the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Now, the Riyadh Comedy Festival is this festival that Saudi Arabia is putting on, and they're inviting literally every comedian in the country. I mean, Dave Chappelle and Andrew Schultz and Bill Burr and any comedian you can name is invited, and they're getting a good amount of money. Now, they've been being criticized for some, in my opinion, silly things. Like, oh, it's a bad government, therefore you shouldn't perform there. San Francisco's got a bad government. New York's about to, elect a communist mayor. If a comedian is going to limit himself to only venues with good governments, he's never going to work. So that's kind of a silly argument in my mind. Now, the second argument was they're being censored. The Saudi government has said, well, there's certain things we don't want you to say when you're here, and that's part of the deal. In fact, let me play a really quick clip and show you what that censorship involves.
Some of the restrictions that artists were required to adhere to. So it says content restrictions. Artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule, A, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including its leadership, public figures, culture, or people, B, the Saudi royal family, legal system, or government, and C, any religion, religious tradition, religious figure, or religious practice.
Okay, again, not a really big problem for me. I mean, for a comedian, if you're hired in a corporate gig, they're often going to give you guidelines. They're going to say, look, it's a family event, you can't cuss, don't talk anything off color. And if you agree to, work that venue, then take their money, then you agree to work under those terms. I mean, it's very common in the industry. If you work in a club, nobody's going to censor you. But if you're working at particularly a corporate event or something like this, then yeah, there's going to be censorship. It's not a big deal. Let's see, what they did to Tim Dillon is completely different than that. And let me let Tim explain it to you.
This is like a real problem. My agent called me and he goes, you said on Joe Rogan that you were performing in Abu Dhabi and you're actually performing in Dubai. They're cities and they have a rivalry. And I go, dude, who gives a fuck? What do I stop? I made a mistake. This is not a malicious slander. It's a mistake. He goes, well, they're very angry and they sent an email that you need to be controlled. I said, well, good luck. Whatever. I don't have to do it. I don't care.
Well, that's how it started, right? Suddenly Tim has to be controlled because he made a mistake on the cities, on somebody else's talk show here in America, and they're monitoring that and they're saying, you gotta control this guy. And then this happened.
Respecting their culture. You have a culture. You've got Sharia law. Would I like Sharia law? No, I don't want it. Actually, I don't want it. I'm good. But you have it. So it's not like I have bits in my act about the prophet anyway. So I certainly wasn't going to show up in your country and insult the people that are paying me the money. One, it's illegal. So I wasn't really planning to go to a Saudi jail. But on my own show, in my own country, where I have the freedom to speak and say the things I want, I'm going to be funny and I'm going to be who I am. And if you're not buying that, you don't have the right to tell me on my own show. People were coming up to me saying, why would you go to that country? They have slaves. In Tribeca, they're assaulting me, these people. I'm just leaving a lunch and they're coming out. They have slaves, they say. And of course, I addressed it in a funny way and they fired me.
Yeah, no. See, they just went over the line right then. It's one thing to censor you at the venue, but they basically just canceled him. And I hate to use that word, but that's what they did because of what he said on his own podcast in his own country. They're actually monitoring what he's saying on his podcast, and they're going to fire him because of that. Now, of course, that would get his comedian friends pretty upset. So let's listen to what they said.
Silencing of speech. And now all these staunch free speech advocates are doing mental gymnastics to get around the fact that they're okay with government-influenced silencing of speech.
My favorite part of freedom is art. Could you imagine living in a world where you couldn't say what you feel or think or have to act in a way that's unnatural?
Now, you think they were talking about the incident with Tim, right? No. That's what they said about free speech before it actually affected their pocketbooks. But now that it's actually going to cost them, like several $100,000 to speak up and say, yeah, this isn't right, what they've said is literally nothing. So, it's so funny when Jimmy Kimmel was being canceled, boy, they were up in arms, weren't they? Because it's easy to do free speech when it's not affecting you financially. But remember, these poor guys are only worth, a few $100 million each. So, this extra $300,000-$400,000 is obviously very important to them, enough that they're not going to talk about free speech right now. It's very inconvenient. It's an inconvenient truth, as it were. Now, not all of them. There was one comedian who actually has integrity and some balls. And you probably can guess who it is before I even show you, but let me show you the man with balls.
I have strong feelings about the Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival. I do get the fact that they perpetrated 9/11.
I'm not doing it.
That is good. I admire that.
Then they doubled the bag, and I was like,
sorry, just go and Google big. Who really did 9/11?
I'm not doing it.
Just be like, okay, fine, never mind.
Yeah.
They doubled the bag, the princes?
It was a significant bag.
What?
Yeah, but I'd already said no. I took a principled stand.
I knew there was a reason that he's my favorite comedian.